All right. So the last thing for tonight, we'll be talking about another optional rule, and that is flanking. Now, the optional rules for flanking is on around page 250, 251, I think. Yeah, to page 251, Dungeon Master's Guide. All right. Now, in the Player's Handbook and in the basic D&D 5th edition free download for players, there is no such thing as flanking. Flanking or combat advantages has been called in other editions, 3.5 and 4. Basically gives you some kind of, makes you have some kind of tactical advantage on your foe. All right, straightforward. I've always been a fan of flanking. I think because it stops characters from growing roots and just sitting back and shooting a bow, like it is right now for the rogues and the rangers that just sit back. More so rogues because of sneak attack. But I would rather see an optional rule also that incorporates you having to be in a flanking position to be able to get sneak attack, either with a bow or a melee weapon. So I would like to see that. I think sneak attack is a little bit too friendly for the rogues, a little too easy to obtain. But I'm good with it though. I like how the damage is and all that too. So. And they only get to use it once. So, all right. So the optional rule for flanking would be this, and this works for both the grid, a square grid, and also the hex map. So this is basically if you're using miniatures, virtual tabletops, your tabletops. You know, if you're playing around the table using your gamepads, then flanking may be for you. Flanking gives combatants a simple way to gain advantage on attack rolls against a common enemy. And the big word there is the A word, advantage. An advantage is you attack twice, take the best roll. That's so powerful in D&D 5e. It's so powerful. Other editions, like D&D 4th edition, when you have flanking, when you have combat advantage, you get a +2. I also believe that it is +2 in Pathfinder and 3.5. But I think advantage is really strong. So now, what is flanking? All right. Now that we know that if you're flanking a creature, you have advantage on attacks. Okay. Well, let's see. A creature can't flank an enemy that it can't see. So a creature also cannot flank while it's incapacitated. A large or larger creature is flanking as long as at least one square or hex of space of its space qualifies for flanking. So what this means is this. If the creature's unconscious, if your ally across from you is unconscious, and all of a sudden the orc spins around on you, you lose flanking. All right, because as you can see here, this is flanking on a square grid map right here. This is flanking. Straight diagonal line from one end to the other. That is flanking. Okay. That is a sorry. This is not flanking. This is my bad. This is not flanking. This is flanking. All right. I'm going to shrink him back down. That's the enemy. This is one creature. This is another creature. This is flanking. Okay? This is flanking, where one creature is diagonal to the other. Allies, that is. Okay? And you can see there will be a straight line through the corners. This is flanking also. Anything horizontal or vertical on the battle map would be flanking. So all these are flanking. Now, when you're flanking, this player character will get advantage on attack rolls, and this player will get advantage on attack rolls. So there's really no, if you're going to use optional rule flanking, it's really not good to use with the optional rule facing, because there's no such thing as double advantage. Either you have advantage or you don't have advantage. You don't have triple advantage. You don't have quadruple advantage. The only thing that would happen would be, a advantage and a disadvantage would negate each other out to make it a normal roll. Okay, so this on a grid, this is a correct way of flanking. This is not flanking, just like it states here. This is not. This is just simply, it's not flanking. All right. Now, flanking on the squares. When a creature and at least one of its allies are adjacent to an enemy and on opposite sides or corners of the enemy space, they flank that enemy, just like I was just explaining and talking about to you. And like I said, again, each creature gets advantage on their attack rolls against the enemy. Not the first attack roll, but every single attack. So if you're a fighter, cranking out 4 attacks around, 5 with a bonus action, and if you action surge and give a 6th attack, you can do that. And they'll all have advantage. That is devastating. That is so freaking devastating. So there's no limit to attacks. Now, take into consideration, if old Hopscotch here gets knocked unconscious, alright, if he has the old angel wings of death on him, and if he's unconscious, and flanking is gone. So old Heavy here, he's going to be attacking normal. But if if the cleric back here cast healing word on the character, then this character would be conscious again, then flanking would be back in. Okay? Now let's talk about flanking on hexes. I don't play on hexes. The only thing that I really truly like hexes is with large maps, like world maps. I love hexes for world maps, for terrain, stuff like that. I'm not a big hex person for when it comes to combat. So when you're flanking on hexes, and it's easy, I mean it truly is, it goes by the size of the monster that you're fighting. So when a creature and at least one of its allies are adjacent to an enemy on an opposing side of the enemy space, they flank the enemy. Same thing as what it would be on a grid. Now on hexes, you have to count around the enemy. That's the easiest way to do it, is just counting around the enemy from one creature to its ally. So the 2 flanking creatures, you would count the spaces between. All right. Against a medium or smaller creature, the ally's flank has to have 2 hexes around them. And here, let me even put the hexagonal up here. So I'm going to put hexes here. All right. Oh, wrong one. Oh! I'm on the wrong one. There we go. Now I'm going to do some hexes. Here we go. Alright, so this is easy. Alright, we'll even do hexes. So here's our creature here, and this is flanking. This is a straight line. And just like the rule states, on a hex, this is a medium creature. Alright, it has to have 2 hexes between each of the allies. So here's 1, here's 2. That is flanking. Alright, this would not be flanking. There's 3 squares on this side and 1. So this would be flanking on a hex, as long as it has 2 squares between each of the allies that are trying to get the flanking bonus. So on a large creature is pretty much 3 squares. Alright, so this creature would pretty much be right here. It's taking up the large creature is taking up 3 squares. Alright, that is a large creature now. Alright, so on a large creature, they got to have 5 squares between them to get flanking. So let's see what flanking would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing. As you can see here, 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square. 1, 2, 3, 4 would be between. They must have 5. Oh, it would be 4 hexes for a large. I'm sorry. I'm thinking no. It's got to be 4 hexes. So yeah, there it is. Large creatures, 4 hexes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if it's a gargantuan creature or a large creature, or I'm sorry, a huge creature, then they would have to have 5 hexes between them. So it would be like this, and then the creature would expand a little bit more and be like that, and there'd be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around them. So yeah, the creatures will get bigger, and then the huge, and then the gargantuan. That's, you know, your ancient dragon, your Tarrasque. Those have to have 6 spaces between them. So it's much easier to do on a grid, you know, on a square grid, but it is definitely doable on a hex as well. So there you go, everybody. That is that's flanking. Now, the one other thing that I'd like to say about this is, I think flanking is good, but don't use flanking. I don't think flanking and facing, you can do it, and it would definitely work, but I would suggest using either one or the other. Like I said, there's no double advantages or anything like that. So the only thing about flanking advantage is just too strong, in my opinion. If I was to use flanking, I would give my party a +2 instead of advantage. I think that would be fair to do. Would be to give them a +2 instead of advantage. So, what do you guys think about flanking? Do you guys think advantage is too strong? Do you think what I suggested as giving them a +2, do you think that would be better than advantage? Which I really think it would be, because the bonuses already are in a huge favor for the player in the first place between ability modifier and base proficiency. So I think a +2 would be good. But I definitely think that it is too powerful. And I don't like the word overpowered and OP and stuff, but flanking is really powered, and it benefits multiple characters at once. So, but then again, enemies would be flanking too, so that's something else that you have to take into consideration. But I would go the 4th edition route, maybe the 3.5 route, give them a +2 bonus. But then you could also, you know, you can also add in facing. But, you know, it just kind of conflicts too much with one another, in my opinion. So I would use either or. So there you go, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the flanking little DM workshop that we had. Joe, I think advantages. I mean, it just gives you a chance to roll higher, but it does give you a chance to roll only on disadvantage. I mean, it just gives you a chance of rolling a more solid number instead of getting a +2 bonus. So I'm just not. I think advantage is strong enough the way it is, with surprise and coming out of stealth. But I think the flanking is just a little bit too much. But that's just hey, that's just my opinion. You don't have to do that. I'm just giving you my opinion. And everybody has their own opinion about it. So just because I say something doesn't mean that it is the end of the world. It doesn't mean the sky is falling. It just I just inform you that I think that a +2 bonus would be better than advantage. That's just me.